During the live stream I had last night, we were just kind of chit chatting, and I mentioned I really dislike the angled belt paths that a lot of printers have now, most notably the Creality Ender 3s and CR10s and all of those, and how it mathematically changes the way the head moves back and forth. So you're getting inaccurate movement. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. It's not that much." Well, it's probably more than you think it is. It's probably not a lot, but it probably is more than you actually think it is. Especially as you get smaller, it'll change it even faster because as it, I don't know how to describe it, but well, you know what? We're gonna do it on a computer using Fusion 360. Let's take a look at the computer. So let's start out, and we're gonna pretend we're on a printer. And what we will do is create a circle here. Let's go over here, and it's about 14 millimeters for the average pulley with the actual belt on it. I actually measured that this morning. And we'll make another one over here. 14 millimeters. I think it's 22 or 16 tooths, whatever it is. Okay, now, if we take a line and we connect them, those would be your belt paths. Let's make this tangent with this, so everything's tangent. Do the same thing on the bottom. Make everything tangent. Tangent. So this would be your normal perfect belt path, okay? Belt comes around, goes around. Let's dimension this. Let's pretend this is a CR10, I guess, 300 millimeters, which is it's actually bigger than that because you get your 300 millimeter build plate. You have the head and everything, plus all the motors, so it's actually more than that, but let's just leave it at 300 for a simplification. To put this in the middle, 150. Okay, here's our basic belt path. Okay, head would be here. Put a line in there. This is your headline. So as this moves back and forth, whoops, Lindsay, get rid of this. That was a mistake. So as this moves back and forth, nothing changes. Okay. The top and bottom stay the same. But if I take, let's get rid of this and do this again so it's not in the center is all, but it is on that. And that's 14. Now the average, when I looked at them, and this is average, on my ANET, the belt was 5 millimeters below a perfectly parallel belt path. It was actually like 5.5, but we'll just go 5. So 14 and 5 is 19. Okay, so this is your lowered belt path. Alright, doesn't look like a lot, but if you go to this point, and to that point, and then from this point to this point, that's basically your Creality Ender 3 belt path. Okay, because it's dropping on that carriage. Now, if you were to escape, put a dimension on there, D, and go from this point to this point, and say you wanted to move 125 millimeters, that'll shift over. Okay, what you're gonna get on this belt, okay, because this is straight and parallel. If we inspect this and go from this point to this point, we now have a length of 125.1. That's a lot. You're already 0.1 off, and we're barely off center. Now, if we keep going and we make this say, and as you get closer to the pulley, not only is it changing the distance. Oh, close. That's why I couldn't do that. Let's make this 50, say. So we're only 50 millimeters away from it. See now how this is a steeper angle? That makes everything move faster. Now this is 50. Well, let's inspect this line here. What is this line here now? It's 50.2. We're already 0.2 millimeters off. Now you figure you double this, because not only is it going to happen here, but it's going to happen close over here. If we go over here, you have that same problem here now. So we're literally, if I go from escape, if I measure, inspect from here to here, I have 50 millimeters. But if I go from here to here, okay, something didn't work. Let's go from this point to here. I have 50.2. Now that multiplies because it's on both sides. So you're going full build plate, you're going to have almost a 0.5 millimeter variance in incorrect dimension. So if you do a 20/20, block here in the center and tune it for it, as you get farther and farther out, it's going to vary. So if I make this 150, so it's dead center, okay, and then I measure from here to here, it's very little. It's 150.08. So when you do your 20 millimeter bracket in here, okay, it's very little movement in the center of the bed. So you're not gonna, you've tuned your printer for this. So this actually reads out 20 millimeters. The problem is you go out here, you are now 0.25 off. That adds up quite a bit. And that's why I dislike angled belt paths. I hope that all made sense. So, there you have it. Yes, there is an error by having the belt at an angle, pulling the head back and forth. It's not extreme. No. It's really not extreme, but as I've shown, there is there, and it varies, and that's the actual issue. If it was always the same, you could just adjust your steps per millimeter, and you'd be fine. The problem is it's very little in the middle, and then it accelerates and gets more and more on the outer end. So it's up to you, but this is why I really have a problem, and whenever I redesign a 3D printer, I have a problem with the angled belts, and I always try and make perfectly parallel traveling belts, because for every millimeter that you're telling the printer to pull with the motor, if it's varying as it travels across, you're going to get inaccurate prints. And if you're doing things like snap together parts, multiple prints off of different printers that you want all to fit together and be accurate, you may be having difficulties because one has a belt pulled down at an angle, one has it straight, or they both have them pulled down at an angle, but one's more than the other, So, something to think about on your next printer rebuild or printer purchase.